Mild traumatic brain injuries, better known as concussions, are a main concern in high school athletes. I personally know a handful of people who have gotten a concussion in their high school career. What we are going to be looking at is how high school athletes and the sports medicine team cared for their concussions.
2. I guess 1 diagnosed, but definitely more than that. 1, just 1.
3 major and 2 minor.
I really don't know, probably a half a dozen or so. They used to call it, well, he got tuned out. And, you know, and you still went in and played. Because if the coach said play, you played. One of the main tests they used to do back then to determine if you had a concussion or not, or got tuned out, was they broke up a capsule, I think it was an ammonia capsule, and stuck it under your nose. And if you went, get it away from me, get away, you know, they said, okay, he's all right. But if you just stood there and sniffed it, he's got to sit out a while. That was how they tested it. Now they did, I don't know if they put the light in the eyes or anything. It was up to the coach whether you went in or not. And I felt at the time that if you ever had said no, I'm not going back in, you were never going to see the playing field again.
We did do the impact testing for 2 years, and I thought it was a great tool. However, when I would actually put the athlete through the post-concussion test, I found that physicians around here don't really understand it yet unless they go right up to the upstate concussion clinic. So we no longer do that. This fall, I believe I had 5 total concussions that were actually diagnosed. I usually get 1 or 2 in basketball, and I always get 1 in the spring for baseball and softball. I put them through the return to play protocol. So as soon as they're released from the doctor, we start right with the low intensity aerobic activity, and then they're good with that, and then we go on to the next step.
Yes, because she told me when I could go back to stuff.
Wait.
Not really, because I ended up going to the hospital.
Did you report it to doctors or athletic trainers?
The doctor.
Did your athletic trainer help at all?
No.
No, there was, this was in the mid to late 50s. Trainers weren't there, and trainers were at college, but the ones who had the say in whether you played or not wasn't the trainer. Back then it was the coaches.
I did nothing. I didn't go to school for a couple of months. I stayed out of hockey till playoffs, which is about 3 months, 4 months. Basically just sat in my room, dark, no TV, and just did nothing all day, essentially.
How did you care for your concussion?
That.
I laid in dark rooms, tried to avoid light and loud noise. The last couple years, there's been a big push from New York State with the Concussion Management and Awareness Act. It's just because concussion is an invisible injury, we really can't diagnose it. We can't see it like we could see a sprain or a fracture. So we do use extra caution, and like I said, the state came out with a ton of preventative measures as for parents, coaches, school nurses, phys ed teachers, as far as what to look for in a concussion. I know there's a lot of literature out there for those professionals, and I know here at Solvay we're being very proactive with it.
I was very thankful when I was coaching that high schools were now using trainers. I think that was a much safer impact. One of the problems I've found when they determine about concussions today is that I worked in a school system where you took a test before you had any contact at the beginning of the football season. And it was on a computer, and they measured the time response you had from the time the question was asked until you put in your answer. And the hockey players found out a way to screw the system. And what that was when they give you the question, count to 15 or 20 before you answer the question. So that, I mean, and it sort of made the test not as good for you as if it hadn't been. And they weren't hard questions, they just measured the response time.
I think maybe a few times we've had a couple athletes experience that, but it's never been officially diagnosed. Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, there's a couple videos on ESPN that I show some of my special athletes as to why they can't go back to the playing field the day after or the minute after they come off feeling nauseous and not knowing who they are.
Have not. No.
Neither of you?
Yes.
I have not heard of second impact syndrome.
Well, second impact syndrome is when after concussion you go back to return to play too soon and you get hit either lightly in the head or the chest and your brain hasn't healed, so it basically starts to get very large and herniates inside and a lot of the brain tissue dies, and this is a 50% mortality rate in high school athletes.
It doesn't.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Oh wait, no, but you got the blind left eye, right? Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my goodness. Well, actually, this past year, went to the doctors, and he told me like my left eye, like they'd give me a test and I just wouldn't perform like at all. I just didn't, like when I remember taking it, I thought I was like going blind in my left eye. And they said when I hit my head, the optic nerve got like moved around and like my brain got moved around so much that like the signaling was off, and so like my left eye, like it doesn't notice things as well. So yeah, that definitely affects me for sure.
I get migraines, but that might just be because I get migraines.
I get headaches, like if I go on roller coasters, that really aggravates them, or even if I just get like lightly hit in the head, I feel like I'm more sensitive to it than I used to be.
You'd have to ask my wife that, she thinks so, but no.
Alright, so some conclusions I've made after this video is that 1, the communication between the doctors, athletic trainers, athlete, and the coach are very unclear. And this is something that could definitely help out the care and prevention of concussions. Because what we saw was a lot of doctors didn't talk to the athletic trainers, and that makes a very blurry line of when the athlete should return to play. And also, a lot of people don't know about second impact syndrome, which is concerning that many people don't know, especially those that have had more than one concussion. But in conclusion, we've come a long way since the 1950s, as you saw. They didn't even know what a concussion was, they called it tuned out. So that is better in that aspect. But we can still do more to research this invisible injury and really get to the bottom of it. Try to take care of your head.